Welcome back to What Problem Are You Solving? The most fantastic lean startup, entrepreneur, coaching, consulting, um, invigorating, innovative podcast since
Thought-provoking,
thought-provoking on
philosophically
Mondays.
consistent with the times in which we live.
Yep. Welcome back. This is gonna be a fun one. I
Whatever.
can't wait to dive into this. But before we do, the usual question applies. Adam, what problem are you solving this week?
Wi-Fi. I'll come right back.
Wow, that is you're trying to remove a pain. Ty, what problem are you solving this week?
Um, the one that's been bugging me for a while, which is trying to find my next gig. Getting closer, it feels like. I've gotten some really good things. But I'm also working on how to help an organization potentially create an FFRDC. What is
Ooh,
an
interesting.
FFRDC, you ask? An
What's an
FFRDC is
FFRDC?
a federally funded research and development corporation. Federally funded research and development corporation. And so it's, oh, stop it already. Not you. It would
You're
keep
so
would
popular,
keep
Ty.
dinging. Jesus. They got it. Okay, hold on, ladies and gentlemen. Let me put this thing on buzzer. All right. So an FFRDC is built, is a federally funded, obviously, research and development, of course, corporation, which means they can actually make money, actually get capital, but they're there really to help the government kind of think about what's the necessary thing to build based on some strategy that's out there. And so, big dogging, but it's like eating, how they say eat an elephant, a bite at a time.
One bite at a time. That's
One
right.
bite at a time. So that's what I'm working on. John, what are you working on this week?
You know, it's
Problem,
interesting.
excuse me.
Yes. What problem am I solving? I'm trying to
Mhm.
solve the problem of going to Great Wolf Lodge, right? Taking the kids to a nice little indoor water park, and all that goes
Say
with it.
what?
Yes, taking the whole family. And which is interesting too, because I found myself this week trying to get ahead of some like technical debt at work, right? Because I know I'm going on this vacation near the end of the week. How am I reprioritizing? How am I shifting work around? How am I looking for productivity now so the payoff will be later, right? And it all goes back to the marshmallow experiment, right? If you wait, if you have that delayed gratification of do the hard work now, work hard now so you can play hard later. That's kind of the approach I'm taking this week.
You just, the reason why I was doing this, like, ooh, is because of this idea of the debt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Technical, operational, and organizational debt,
Yeah.
which is, we usually think about technical debt in building businesses, but I wonder how much we think about operational as in what's the debt associated with switching the well, not operational, but more organizational debt, for instance. What's the
Mm-hmm.
cultural
Organizational
impact,
debt. Yeah.
right? What's the process debt
Mm-hmm.
associated with the technical change, or any of the others? So if you think about feasible, viable, desirable, and the debts associated with that as you switch your business model, it could. Not too many people, other than maybe the three people and maybe one other guy who actually helped us build this thing. If he does listen to our podcast, the anti-canvas,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
if you think about as you're building your business, what are the debts that you have to incur, that you have to overcome to make sure that your business is successful, from an operational, from an organizational, from a
I like it.
technical.
Nice. Awesome.
So
Adam, what problem are you solving this week?
I didn't lose.
Adam,
I didn't lose my turn.
No,
nope.
you didn't. You got it back.
All right, so I'm sticking with the. We went from personal to professional. I'm going from the stop, starting, start, finishing, but then also the not stop, starting, start, finishing. You got it? All right.
No, but go.
right.
You'll instruct us.
All right, on the stop, starting, start, finishing, same thing as last week. So I'm trying to see what happens if you throw an entire ecosystem of mentors behind one use case. So same
Wow.
thing as last week. I'm gonna post it back in the comments. Zaira Kenya from Empathy, still looking to connect with we made a couple connections. So I would have pivoted something by now, but we've made a couple out of I think 2 out of the 10. So we need more people not to ask for things. We don't need more Zaire Kenyas right now, and we don't even need more. We need more of this middle connective tissue. So even if you don't know nursing professors in the mental health space, but you're willing to try and connect him, that's the metric I'm looking at this week. All right, and in the new stuff, I'm going to Atlanta next week. I need one last panelist on the startup side. So it's an ecosystem chat. I think we've got most of our programs and ecosystem providers covered. But if you've gone through the ecosystem a little bit in Atlanta, Ty has been amazing. He's connected me with some amazing people down there. It's called Avant South. We will be there on Monday at Georgia Tech. Morehouse, Spelman, Emory, Georgia Tech. All right.
Cool.
Avant South.
Avant South.
And who is what is the ecosystem that you're building that it's for
I'm not
servicing?
So we are going to discuss. So the point is to talk about how, every city kind of wants to be top 10 ecosystems in the country, and then a lot of them want to be top 10, top 25 in the world. So just another conversation. If you've read either The Rainforest or Brad Feld's Startup Community Way, talks about like love of place and your resources and a long-term 20-year view are some of the now more standard ingredients. But everybody wants to be top 5. What do you really have to do to turn an ecosystem with the universities, the corporates, the accelerators into an actual top 5, the investors, the startups? How do you turn every city into a top 5? No, but in this case, Atlanta. How do you turn Atlanta into a top 5? And they're up there in the top 10 for sure.
Yeah. Well, I've never been able to solve it. I did solve the triangle, the pyramid one time, but I was never able to solve a couple of times, mostly by accident. But I was never able to solve the Rubik's Cube. And what I think that what you're saying is that what's the algorithm? So this thing is all mixed up. There's a way to solve it, and you have to figure out what's the appropriate turns and twists to solve that Rubik's Cube problem. And so what's the algorithm? And I think each city represents a different series of mix-ups, right? But there's an algorithm to solving it, but you got to figure out what that particular algorithm is in terms of corporates, VC, universities, government, nonprofits, public nonprofits. How do you do that? And then all of a sudden you got the bing.
Yes, I think that's exactly it. How do you arrange them? How do you have the right amount of competition at each space, but not too much where there's 30 of the same program? How do you, you have different journeys. I'm reminded there's what's that fun cartoon? And I know we're behind schedule, but it's like the difference between data and knowledge where it connects the dots. John, you've seen it.
Data.
Pull it up real quick.
Like wisdom and all that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know the line. All right.
I was going to say, my mom says I'm a series of mix-ups.
I might join you in that.
Woo!
All right.
I'm not even going. There's a whole series of conversations just ran through my head, mostly inappropriate, but I'm going to leave it.
I love it. Good stuff.
All right. What are we talking about tonight, John?
Tonight, so as an avid tech YouTuber, I stumbled upon a video that I wanted to share with these guys, and I said, the more I watched it, the more I realized you could actually build this company's business model canvas just by listening to them articulate how they operate their business. And so it's a small company. I don't know if you've heard of it, Amazon.com. Little startup. Anyway, it's there's a new piece out from CNBC, and as they walk through how it's an AI flavored video of how they're using AI throughout their company. As my ears were tuned into this, I started picking up different pieces, different segments out of the business model canvas. So we're not going to spend a lot of time diving deep into the business model canvas, but as we find these, I think we could certainly talk to those. Ty.
I got a question.
Yeah.
In case there are people who are going to watch this, we are all recommending people to watch this. Could you give us like the very short, skinny shorts of what a business model canvas is?
Sure thing. So
just a short. I have an idea, but I'm wondering how you define it. Just shorts.
So my elevator pitch for that,
Daisy Dukes. I'm sorry.
is to say that most businesses could be described in 9 different categories of how they operate. And if done well, you could actually put all 9 categories together on one page and at a very high level, very coarse level, describe how the business operates, and which actually is a business model, not just the products that it builds, but how it builds it, how it maintains cost, how it maintains revenue, and so on and so forth.
Awesome. Thank you. That's perfect. I'm sure we'll go through it. I'm sorry, Adam. Go ahead.
Speaking of building it, and would you say that Jobs to be Done is a test just within the customer segment category?
Absolutely. That Jobs to be Done is a portion of how do you validate a customer segment? Yes. Good catch.
And in some ways, it's already been articulated, right? Because there's an abstraction for those who are on that's called the value proposition, which is the tie between that middle section where it says value proposition and that far right section that says customer. It's an abstraction, which is job to be done, pains, gains, blah, blah, blah. But it also is what problem they're solving is also embedded in that. So we're not leaving it out. We're not walking away from the purpose of the podcast. It's just a different way to articulate it so you can actually visually see it.
This might be a good time to segue. I think when we have David Bland on next week. But this is serious. I'm guilty of not having testing business ideas right on my desk at the moment, but I know it's organized by experiment type and and so you're getting. I wonder, is it? I forgot if it's organized specifically back to sections of the business model canvas, but we can ask the audience if someone's got the book handy, look it up for us. If you know.
Or we can ask him next week.
We can ask David
next week.
All right. Let's dive into this and see if parts of it jump out. So if you hear one of the 9 segments jump out, tell me to stop and pause, and we'll update the Canvas slide. That's the whole point here, is to show how easy it is to build a business model canvas.
Yes.
Let's go. Let's hear it.
Packages, then they flow out to our delivery stations.
Inside this 1 million square foot warehouse in Northern California, Amazon packages are handled by hundreds of people and hundreds of robots, all increasingly driven by tech's biggest craze.
Generative AI underpins everything we're doing here, with perceiving, grasping, and moving products with the Robin arms to managing fleet congestion with our Pegasus robotic drives.
I like it.
Uh-oh.
So 2 things. First of all, is this like bingo, where if you call it out and you're wrong, you actually
there's no wrong answers.
You get a deduction, or is it you have to put a dollar in?
We're not competing. We're being generous.
We're collaborative here. Let's go.
Go ahead.
I mean, I would say Gen AI goes in the resources box, maybe, right?
I like it. Mm-hmm.
Do you have a sense why? So maybe that gets to why it becomes a key, a resource.
Because I won't dare, after all of our conversations, put it in the value proposition. That's why.
Gotcha.
I like it.
So by definition, a key resource is the thing that the company must have to execute against the value proposition, which we don't have yet, but it seems like it is. I mean, just by word of the engineer that was just talking, it's a key thing that must be available to execute the value proposition. Okay.
For years, Amazon has sped up package delivery, 2-day, 1-day, and now more and more same day, made possible by more workers, but also by rapidly improving algorithms and AI-enabled robots.
Pause.
Okay, pause.
Come on.
Pause.
I was gonna let you have it.
Jump in.
You know what if I drank, we can make a drinking game out of this. The one who didn't get it right, the other 2 had to drink. But go ahead, Adam.
Look, he's writing it before I even get to say. That's how obvious it was. All right.
There you go. All right, cool.
That's their value proposition. Not that we have Gen I, but we can get stuff to you
So
extremely fast.
So in a value proposition, then that 2 hour same day down to hours is about solving what problem on behalf of the customer, because that's all a value proposition is for.
Mhm.
So what is it solving? Since Adam, since you thought about it, and John, you typed it.
If you put it that way, then you're the one that is left to talk.
Okay, so I have to explain it. So the job to be done of the customer is to get the thing they ordered as fast as possible. And it's not just the delivery; it's to help them accomplish a job that they've identified that forced them or that drove them to go to Amazon and say, it was easier for me to get it from Amazon in terms of hours, previously days, now down to hours, to get it so I could get my job done. I could accomplish whatever that task might be.
Love
As a
it.
customer. Okay, go ahead.
I like to call it our dance floor.
And thanks to being an online retailer from the start, Amazon has
Dance
a big
floor,
advantage
dance
when it
floor,
comes to the
dance floor.
massive data needed for generative AI.
Absolutely. Amazon has been better at it than probably every
I mean,
other
we'll
retailer
get through
out
at least
there.
2 minutes
Think
of
better
this video.
predictions of exactly
All
what
right,
you're
I'll
going
say-
to order
I'll say
from where
bye.
and when.
Data
Hundreds of thousands of robots.
section, not even.
What are you saying? You're
What is
I
it?
was trying to go fast because we're not. She was just talking about. I think the data in this is actually a cost.
Oh,
I like it.
say more about that.
Expensive.
You got it,
Even
John?
Even though they got AWS, even though it's probably a nice double revenue model for their. It goes on the other. Are we building two business models? Are we doing an AWS business model canvas simultaneously here?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because as I was listening to this beforehand, they say they reference AWS quite a bit, right? And so it's one side of Amazon specifically, talking to the data center side of Amazon. So in other words, this video is wholly focused on Amazon.com.
Right.
And therefore I would treat the other business unit of Amazon, specifically AWS and some of the other cloud stuff they have, as a key partner in this sense.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So in this particular business, the business can access other parts of the greater architecture as a partner to help them manage their data, their data costs. Because they could do, I mean, they're not going to do this, but they could have gone to Google and asked Google to manage their data, but they use
could have.
AWS. Right. Okay, cool.
So Ty, I know we're slowing it, but you made a great distinction between how sort of the resources was reliant on the value proposition. Either of you, if you had to split hairs, how would you distinguish between AWS as a partner versus a resource?
John, you want to do it or me? I haven't thought about that.
So the way I think of it is resources you own, partners you pay.
Right. And you pay in a way that they reduce your cost share.
Yeah,
right?
it's better for you, economically better for you to pay
Yep.
someone else to do it than you to do it in-house. Yes.
Exactly.
That's how I see it. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So in other words, they're not standing up their own servers and their own data. They're actually just leveraging open APIs and the business from AWS.
It's interesting, but Amazon technically is, but this specific
Separate business
Right, yeah.
unit.
All right,
Yeah,
all
that's
right.
how I'm thinking of it. Yep.
All right. Fair.
But even if it was like going out to Google to get Google to run their backend data infrastructure, it would still be a partner, because Amazon.com, the warehouse distribution things that moves packages to people, isn't built to do that. They need somebody else to do that for them.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's logistics, not
Yep.
not data.
Yep.
But we all know it's getting finer.
And more efficient delivery routes. But not all the change that could come from generative AI is positive.
In the event that they were able to leverage generative AI and fully automate the fulfillment center, I think that would be problematic. The other downside that we don't talk about enough is the negative impact on the environment. The cost of running data centers, the use of electricity, the use of water for cooling.
Still, Amazon
Okay, so I'm going to put in here data center management. But also, is it a key resource for them, or is it a key activity, the data center management?
The
or-
management is the activity, the resource is the data.
Gotcha.
And then I'll add too the environmental cost.
I think
that's one
our
thing.
so this is pretty cool. Our friend Sam and Boris actually went live on Thursday during lunch or something, and that was a big thing that came up on their LinkedIn Live about externalities and social costs and environmental costs. So we're gonna have to figure out how to link that back here. But yes, water.
Amazon says AI helps cut costs and its carbon footprint thanks to more efficient planning.
And it seems subtle, but at this scale, getting like just one more product in the right spot means that it's shipping less distance when you order it, better speed, lower distance traveled, better sustainability.
CNBC visited Amazon's largest California sort center and a same-day warehouse nearby to see firsthand how it's putting AI to work at every step of operations, and sat down with Amazon's head of transportation technology to find out just how far the e-commerce giant plans to take it.
So here I got one.
When
Put
Amazon
a pause on that. So how does a so I see we have the environmental costs, but how does this offsets, right? So they have these carbon offsets that they're trying to go for 2040. When in the green room, John and I were talking about that your current business model, if you aren't planning for its iterative space, right, it's going to do something different. How does an Amazon see? We know that we want to have a 2030 environmental impact, and it's going to impact the way we do data center management, the way we manage our fleet distribution, all the rest of that stuff. How do they plan for that? And so I don't think we look at it here in this particular model that we're building, but I think it's also to be concerned for anybody who's listening to this as they think about their business model. You know, what happens in my 6 years from now space, right? What does that look like in the iteration of the business model then? Do I plan for it now and build it out? So I'm putting things into place in terms of resource management, activities, the costs associated with hiring. There's a piece that'll come up later, I think, about hiring. What does that look like?
It's interesting because the way I wrote that was from a revenue perspective or an impact perspective. Like, what is the political capital? It's not necessarily financial, but it is something that the company wants to invest in to make sure that you are getting some sort of other value captured.
Could one of the value propositions be for both the company and the customer segments about environmental impact, right? Knowing that there's some social impacts that we're starting to move towards, that people start to see the triple bottom line, not just of cost and revenue, but also environmental stuff. Is there a way to capture that in a current business model? And I don't know. I think there is something here.
I mean,
just a thought.
Yeah, which is interesting because now I get to play with colors, right? So now you can have all the green items be related to the environmental / social impact,
right? And I think it goes beyond just environmental. I think it's a social impact, because environmental, but the social impact has this kind of, it puts the humans, connect the humans to the environment as well. But
I like it.
Prime launched in 2005, 2-day shipping was virtually unheard of. And although it's now standard and free for millions of items if you're a Prime member, it's a grueling logistical lift.
Along here, you see Robin arms, which are robotic arms. They're loading packages with employees onto Pegasus drive units. Those Pegasus drive units are then sorting packages by neighborhood.
Steve Armato started at Amazon as a software engineer before Prime in 2001.
A lot of things you see today, those weren't there in 2001. We had 5 fulfillment centers back then. Now we have.
All right. First of all, we're talking about AWS and what the business. Is this for Prime? Or is this for
This is for
From
Amazon.com.
Amazon.
Yeah, the warehouse shipping packing part. But he's using generative AI on AWS to do data analytics.
Because it's for optimization purposes, optimizing routes, optimizing, where you put things on the warehouse floor to move it around to reduce. And I think there's a piece in there where it's like, I've never worked Amazon, but I heard those people could put like 10 miles a day in walking.
Yeah, so he's a resource.
Yeah, the humans. Human packers.
Where they say he started, well, not just the Packers, but they said he started where at Amazon 20 years ago or something.
He was a software engineer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just reading a story. Google paid $2 billion to get one of their AI engineers back. Did you see that?
Oh,
right.
nice.
Next week. All right, let's go.
But yeah, so I added the revenue streams he explicitly called out was for Amazon Prime users. So that does come at a cost. What's it, like $110 a year, $119 a year, something like that?
Is how much
And
it is? Oh my God.
Yeah, it went up a lot. Yeah. And then the actual key resources to do that shipping, it started with human packers to actually walk the floor, but now the robots are bringing the shelves to the humans, right? And you have those robotic arms. So now we're starting to fill out, these true key resources that if they don't have these, their business model falls apart. There's a lot more behind it, but he's saying that really the secret sauce of what's making Amazon work right now is you got to have these robots, you got to have these humans, and you got to have this Gen AI.
Hundreds of the delivery vans that you see in the neighborhood, none of that was there.
Traditional retailers like Walmart and Target were selling online, but they hadn't started making promises of speed.
Back then, mail order, when Amazon started, you'd be lucky if you could get something in 2 to 3 weeks. And, Amazon would still promise like a week and they would get it to you in a few days. So that was amazing.
So how did Amazon pull it off? The short answer is data. Long before generative AI became all the rage with the release of ChatGPT in 2022, general AI was a huge differentiator for Amazon. As an early online-only retailer, Amazon had a unique ability to collect mass aggregate data on shopping behavior and use it to create algorithms to maximize sales and speedy logistics.
All right, press
We've been
one.
working
Yeah,
on
resist.
AI.
Remember the video for the business model canvas where it was like the low-cost airline and where it was like online only? It was like, or the secondary airport only, or one single plane. So the online only, I don't know, either in resources or I guess activities is where that goes. But I think the reason I called it out is because there is a very good explainer video for the low cost airline. We'll link to it here. I think that was one of their initial business model explainer videos, but that was probably the video where it clicked for me. It was like, all right, their entire business model is just, it's the same plane. It's easier to turn around. The personnel needs less training.
Well, it's interesting. I put in the key activities data analytics because if they can't analyze the data, and they were one of the very first, apparently they could do it well. If they couldn't analyze the data, they couldn't understand consumer behavior, which is part of the value proposition, right? Because I can, what is it, John? It was 3 clicks or less with 99.999 5 nines.
Mm-hmm.
And so with accuracy of 5 nines and 3 clicks or less, because I understood what you were doing and what you were intending to buy, I could shrink the time from order to deliver, right?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just about you ordering, it was also, orchestrating this entire sets of movements.
Same thing with when I was listening to this video, I thought a lot about Charles Duhigg's Power of Habit, where he talks about with Target years ago, over a decade ago, if you bought 3 items, they could basically put you into a customer segment category.
All right, speak.
So isn't that part of then a customer relationships get, keep, grow, which is the specific part of, at least as Steve Blank talks about customer relationships, how you find them, how you keep them, how you grow them, which is, it sounds wonky to say data analytics, but they could tell you customer data. Well, yeah, there you go.
I like it.
And predictive models somewhere in there, probably predictive models is somewhere as a key activity. I'm sorry, you were going to say, Adam?
I think it must be called out that since we always like to start with the customer segment, that's the one. Everything on this side is engine. Like who the heck
Yep.
needs 2 days? Who really needs this stuff so fast? But
Yeah.
I guess we'll get there.
Over 25 years. For employees, a lot of it is around ergonomics and safety. For customers, it's around vast selection, great speeds.
Exploiting
Ooh.
technology.
Whoa. Selection and speed.
Sounds like value prop to me.
Right. And so the customer is I hate to say the generic e-commerce shopper.
We can't
haven't
make.
talked
No, it's got to come from the video. We got to follow the rules tonight.
Wait a minute, Mr. Anarchist is now. We need to follow the rules.
Yeah. No, I don't care. Let's just put whatever we want on there. There are no rules.
Tonight we wait until it's must
Hey,
come
what-
from. Must come
What does
from-
Outback say? No rules, just right.
I love it. You
To
guys
drive
crack me up.
e-commerce sales. That's essentially what Amazon's done since '97, since the beginning.
They are, I would say, hands down, the most data heavy and data savvy, company. It's not that Walmart and Target and Costco and others don't have their own reams of data, but they're looking at things a little bit differently, and they have much older systems.
Amazon is decades younger than its major retail competitors, but its stock value and footprint have grown incredibly fast. Hundreds of warehouses, more than 1.5 million US employees, and more speed. In 2014, Amazon launched Prime Now, with some deliveries arriving in an hour or less. Then in 2018, Amazon vastly increased its driver network with the launch of its Delivery Service Partner program, where it contracts driving out to some 4,400 small delivery.
I was gonna let the warehouses go because we're behind schedule. Warehouses, resources, partners.
Say that again.
Partners are the delivery partners.
Mm-hmm. The delivery service partners. Mm-hmm.
Warehouses.
That's where they, yeah. And warehouses. Mm-hmm.
Key resources, I would say. Yeah.
Absolutely. If you don't have a place to put the stuff, you can't ship it out. And then another thing I picked up too was they said they had 1.5 million employees. So I don't know if that was Amazon.com or Amazon writ large, but either way, when you got 1.5 million people, that's a lot of people to manage / cost.
So as you write that in, I tried to give a sense of, from the video, Adam, of what the
I saw you cheating.
persona of the Amazon customer might look like, even though we don't have data right now.
No evidence. Yeah.
No evidence.
Nothing. You got.
Here's what I love about this, and this is again, I'm gonna claim the fame of this. I'm gonna coin this one, but to say, in that case, when I see teams do that, I say, great, you're extrapolating. I'm gonna mark that as red because that wasn't provided with evidence. It's a hypothesis right now. Let's capture it because we don't want to lose that idea, but that's not been validated yet by the video or something, or an interview or something like that.
It's been validated by the $1 trillion.
I don't believe it. Show me the data.
Well, I think beyond what we're seeing here, I think that anybody who's listening to this, and I'm going to encourage people that I work with to come back and listen to this, right? Because what you've done is to say, I have a hypothesis. I can use the canvas to capture the hypothesis. I just know that I need to reduce it in a way that it goes from what we used to say, John, from I think to I know with data.
Exactly.
Right?
Got a bumper ready for that.
Boom. Beep, 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 beep. Sorry, that's my little jacked up radio thing.
DJ Horn.
Businesses that employ 390,000 drivers.
Wow.
By 2019, one-day shipping was the norm. Then in 2020, Amazon began using transformer architecture, the backbones of what we know of today as generative AI, to develop models for demand forecasting and supply chain optimization. By 2022, it was rolling AI transformer models into its robotics. All that made shipping times even faster. Today, drivers are delivering 20 million packages per day across 20 countries, and in the first quarter of 2024, more than 2 billion items arrived the same or next day.
60% of our deliveries for Prime customers in March were same day or next day. So there are a lot of those fast orders for our top 60 metropolitan areas.
Could you have gotten to that 60% number without generative AI?
Well, I think we've been working on this for decades to get to this speed. And it's a combination of engineering, people, processes, and technology. Generative AI is a big unlock for us, particularly for new products where we have sparse or no history for that sales history for that product. It's going to come faster because of generative AI.
Pause a second. Now, what's interesting to me is that he said we've been working on, and so I think part of my frustration is not the right word, because I'm not a computer scientist, but I'm a social scientist, if anything else, trying to study how human beings take up information and deal with it. He's saying that for over 25 years, they've been doing AI, right? They called them transformers. And I didn't realize until now that I've heard that term before in terms of Amazon. For whatever reason, I've heard that term before. And I'm like, oh, so that's what they were talking about, a transformer. A transformer is AI. And that was, John, 10 years ago when we were working at the agency. Right? They were talking about transform. I remember them talking about that.
No. You're thinking of like the mid 80s, Optimus Prime, the Decepticons.
Autobots, transform, roll out. But so I think it's interesting to her to say, you'll hear it several times, you go back and rewatch it. Was that AI? Was that AI? Was that AI? And he's like, we've been doing it for 25 years, lady.
Like, slow down.
And so I think the point is, at what point does AI just help us get better? And at what point does AI like, oh crap, this is a whole new thing? But optimization, get better. That's what I meant.
But all this speed comes at a huge cost in actual capex, but also human labor, a burden that can be reduced, Amazon says, with the use of robots.
Before robotics, pickers would need to walk distances between aisles to pick products, kind of like a library. And now it's being brought to you more like self-service. And so that's great for ergonomics. It's great for less walking.
Amazon has faced scrutiny in recent years over its workplace injury record, with federal citations for safety violations and a year-long Senate probe that found Prime Day was a major cause of worker injuries. Amazon has appealed the citations and said the report ignores progress it's made, and it says AI can help.
One algorithmic improvement is to take our faster selling products and place those on the shelves at waist height. That's your ergonomic power zone, so less reaching, less bending.
Amazon's big shift to automation started in 2012 with the purchase of Kiva Systems for $775 million. Now, Amazon has
So that's an example where they just flat out bought Kiva, right? So they took what could have been a partner and they just ate the whole thing all at once and brought that in-house.
Well, is it possible that across the you have to have them, and they are there, and I'm sure they're going to get to it later on in the video, but a cost structure is humans, and not in terms of I have to have employees, but injuries, fatigue, repetitive work issues, flat feet, whatever.
I'm thinking about that too, that what's implied in the video, but really explicitly called out is safety as a key activity.
Bingo.
You have to manage OSHA rules. You have to manage those other types of things to keep your human resources. Again, I hate the term because we all hate the term because we're not interchangeable cogs.
Right.
But for the human pickers, I like the way you updated that because it's like the imagery of picking apples off a tree. Yeah, there's a lot of safety that goes in there. And if you can reduce the number of injuries and defects, why wouldn't you do that? That's amazing.
Well,
good catch.
I would also suggest that human pickers is an activity. Now that you talked about
the people themselves, the picking is the activity. The humans are the resources.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, okay. That's a great example because I
sometimes
again, and this is a great point for people when they say, well, what is data management? Like, is data the resource? Or when I say, let's just separate it out. Management, the verb, is the activity, but data is the resource.
Right.
So it depends on how you want to write it, where you put it. But that's one way to separate that.
So as one guy that we used to work with, Keith Barber, words have meaning.
Words have meaning.
Deployed at least 750,000 robots, more than double the number it had in 2021.
So generative AI helps with prioritization. So some of the 2-day deliveries might stand aside and let the robot with the next day delivery go on its mission first and take a straight line to its destination.
That's cool.
Amazon's next generation of drive units, called Proteus, are fully autonomous.
They're actually outside of this fenced area moving things around. They're using generative AI and computer vision to avoid obstacles and find the right place to stop, the right place to park.
And then there's Robin Arms, which Amazon says have handled some 2 billion packages so far.
Would these 20 Robin arms be able to do what they're doing without generative AI?
I think that we would see that they would require a lot more training. And so generative AI has been really a step function improvement in being able to infer from our vast product catalog about how to handle a given product, even if I haven't seen that product before.
Pause.
And although it's
Pause.
only in a couple
I thought that was an interesting that the generative AI, I don't even know where it goes, but the generative AI can learn. So that's where that stepwise function, that it can learn about a package based on its previous experience with something the same size, the same weight, blah, blah, about how it can infer, which I thought was it's an interesting verb right there, infer.
Inferred prioritization. I thought that was interesting too about, well, if there's two products coming down the line and one is, expedited, then the other robot will move out of the way and let the expedited one. And so I think that prioritization is something that they're actually investing in. They're investing in the prioritization.
Right. I like it.
Cool.
warehouses for now, there's a humanoid robot called Digit that can grasp and handle items in a similar way to how people can. And Amazon has a new deal with AI startup Covariant, hiring its founders and licensing its models that help robots handle a wider range of physical objects. Of course, this brings up the...
Did they hire them or did they buy them?
They hired them, it sounds like.
Right. So they become a key partner.
Where they bought Kiva, now we actually talk about having this company called Covariant as a key partner for robot models.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like it.
The big question, could Amazon one day replace all warehouse workers if AI helps robots get too capable?
There's kind of a balancing act for Amazon. How can they implement automation to improve efficiency and manage labor expenses, but how can they do it in a way that complements their use of humans and doesn't replace them?
Amazon says the robots work with people, and they're creating new roles.
We're investing over $1.2 billion to upskill more than 300,000 employees by end of next year.
One study found that each robot adopted in manufacturing replaced about 3 workers. Other research shows that companies that deploy more robots add more jobs overall.
So someone needs to maintain this if it breaks down, or if something does get dropped on the dance floor, we have a process and special training to go clean that up. And so each of those creates new categories of jobs, some of which have higher earnings potential as well.
The truth is, at the end of the day, Amazon's responsibility is not to employ, kind of a million Americans, even though it does. Their responsibility is to their shareholders.
Another big way to please shareholders is to cut down on the huge amount of time and money it takes to get inventory from sellers to customers. To do this, Amazon has always used algorithms to predict how much of what inventory is needed, when, and where.
Every product has
Pause.
like a regional
Pause that a
nuance.
second. Hit pause. And so the customer is not just only the e-commerce, the variety-focused, speed-conscious e-commerce shopper. It's also the supplier, the vendor. Something about the vendor.
Finally.
Well, excuse me, man.
And shareholders explicitly, they called out shareholders as someone who's trying to get value out of Amazon.
He said, "Finally." Oh, whatever.
Still don't have a buyer though.
Okay.
We recently regionalized our entire national network. And by doing a regional network, that means that products are more likely to ship from fulfillment centers close to you.
What's new with generative AI is the ability to predict where to place brand new items.
So we're able to use generative AI to create a link between products we have seen before where we do have a sales history and a new product we haven't seen before yet and get it in the right place the first time. So when we place a product in the right place ahead of time, before you click buy, it's traveling less distance, which is a win for speed and sustainability.
Amazon also says AI is helping sustainability with a specific model that makes better choices about which packaging to use, and by reducing the number of damaged items that get sent to and returned by customers. Amazon says its AI is 3 times better than humans at identifying damaged products.
We ship billions of packages. We have the data about those packages. So we're able to use computer vision together with generative AI and that vast product and package data to then detect damages and being able to sideline a package if we think it might be damaged before we ship it to the customer.
Pause. Is there a difference between generative AI and computer vision, or maybe they are part of the tech chain?
They are they're partners. Computer vision is how it can actually see things and detect things and then make sense of them.
So I'm gonna put that as NPUT, computer vision. So I'm just gonna drop that in as a key resource.
While you're doing that, one thing I also picked up on was I did write in the cost structure $1.2 billion to upskill humans that may be disrupted by AI. So that's a cost that they are willing to incur to offset the potential replacement of people. And then another thing that came to mind too is when they were just talking about using computer vision to detect for defects, that in effect is actually a way to improve the customer relationship. Ooh. Because if I can reduce defects before you even see them, right, I'm going to take away the possibility of a negative review before it even happens.
Right. That's I think that's a dope observation, actually.
Yeah, because you would think of it as just like a normal back-end optimization, but they are doing it for the customer's benefit, right? Yeah. It's not for their own internal optimization and maximizing profits and minimizing, inventory, but they're actually using it to catch things before they go out, and that because they're gonna have to deal with a broken item in the inventory anyway. They might as well catch it before it goes out the door.
So if go ahead, Adam. I'm speaking too much.
So I was going to say, the people who buy pallets, it's a downside for those customers. But
yes, the ones who buy the Amazon returns by the pallet load. Yeah.
Hey, don't laugh. I got this watch that I have on, and when my son is at school in Greensboro, they have this thing called Black Fridays, and they start at $6, and then they work their way down until they get their next pallet. This is a Samsung version 4 or something. I was digging through stuff because it was returned. I got this and the charger for $6, and it updates. It does all the.
It doesn't
updates.
Turn on, but I mean, hey, at least it looks good.
See what it looked like. Bam! I was like $6. Yeah. Tell nobody I got this watch for $6.
We'll
just put it on a podcast forever.
There you go.
All right.
Who said that?
But training and running Gen AI is itself a carbon-intensive process, a fact that could make it hard for Amazon to achieve its 2019 climate pledge to reach net zero carbon by 2040. By 2027, AI servers are projected to use up as much power every year as a small country. And Amazon Web Services has data centers filled with servers running AI workloads. Although this also gives it an edge over other e-commerce players because it can train its AI in-house. Amazon's also invested $4 billion in AI startup Anthropic, which makes chatbot Claude, a competitor to OpenAI's ChatGPT. So
that's an investment in Anthropic. $4 billion, did they say?
Yeah, $4
Yep.
billion.
Yeah, so that is so the key partner there would be Anthropic, who uses the Claude chat tool. Anthropic. I want to make sure I spell it right.
So here's what we don't have in this, and this is for anybody that's looking. There are pressures on your business model that you can't do anything about. You can't even account for them except for how you manage it in terms of cost. And so in order for them, like they said in the video, in order for them to maintain their servers, they're executing at the level of Norway in terms of energy
Wow.
consumption. And so all of that stuff, like their 2030 climate goals, that you can't necessarily directly account for inside the
Mhm.
9-box structure, but you need to account for as pressures against your business. So like things for social
Amazon
impact,
makes its
whatever.
own AI-focused microchips and its own generative AI tools for developers, which are used in operations.
We use tools like Amazon Q, Amazon Bedrock, that allows us to evaluate different models against the, what does good look like? So what are the metrics for success of this business application?
One big metric for success that shareholders are watching: if Amazon's huge investment in Gen AI will translate to profits.
I have yet to see huge lift in anybody's retail business due to generative AI, including Amazon. I think that a lot of their biggest impact has happened because of the earlier investments, not necessarily some of these more recent investments. I've seen a lot of hype, but no actual numbers.
One area Amazon is hoping Gen AI will translate to true savings is the most expensive part of the delivery process, getting that package the last mile to your door. Amazon's now using more than 20 machine learning models to figure out the most efficient routes for its delivery drivers.
If there is more congestion on a road or if a road is closed, AI is able to help us determine whether that diversion is still there or take that different route.
In 2021, CNBC talked to Amazon drivers about the pressures and pitfalls of the job, from dog bites to urinating in bottles to save time.
People are running through stop signs, running through yellow lights. Everybody I knew was buckling their seatbelt behind their backs because the time it took just to buckle your seatbelt, unbuckle your seatbelt every time was enough time to get you behind schedule.
The hope is, with better routes and vehicle coordination, drivers will feel less pressure to cut corners or skip brakes.
It should enhance the driver experience, but it'll still be challenging.
In 2022, Amazon also rolled out new fully electric Rivian vans and now has 15,000 of them across the US.
Partner.
They're equipped with large screens where the new mapping and
Partner.
Partnered with Rivian. That's a good point. Yeah. Let's switch over there. I did capture that one of the key activities is routing prediction. Right. And Rivian, one of the Tesla competitors.
Again, yeah, exactly. And again, one of the benefits. But they didn't figure this one out. They try to build out their own airline fleet, delivery fleet. Didn't
Right.
work so well.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Amazon
Prime
work so
Air.
well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And because the one crashed in Houston. One of the bad boys took off and crashed. He was like, let somebody
Details.
else take that. Yeah. Let somebody else take that bit on.
Which is a great point, because that is an example of where maybe they tried to do that key activity and key resource in-house and said,
It
you know
ain't
what,
worth it.
it's time to outsource that. Let's let FedEx and do let's put those in, because I know we actually even have again, it's not in the video, but we do have FedEx and UPS
Yep.
and USPS as partners.
And so the question is, maybe for people who are listening to this, why would they not try to build theirs? Why would they go to DHL, which is probably another one, right? DHL, FedEx, UPS, United States Postal, right? Why would they do that? Why? Because they already have the built infrastructure to manage it. You just ship it to them, put them on a contract, a service learning agreement, a service level agreement,
Yep.
and say, hey, this is what we expect. you do your thing. Here's a check. You don't, you get a penalty for it. So watch your built. And this is for the folks that are online. Listen to us. Watch the pre-built environments and what you have to build. Sometimes you have to build because it just doesn't work otherwise.
Right.
I think that's what happens with Tesla. They had to build it. They couldn't go in to a OEM and say, "Hey, build these parts for us."
Yeah, especially when you're doing something you've never been done before. You have to do that vertical integration.
Yep.
And say, I've got to build it in-house because there's either no other partners that can do it, so I have to take the hit up front to build it, or I think I can do it better than all the potential partners out there. So it's a risk that you take when you do that, but if you can do it, it tends to work out.
Routing is displayed, as well as AI-enabled cameras that watch the road, sides of the vehicle, and the driver.
There's no camera recording if the driver's not driving, and there's a privacy mode.
Another area where privacy often comes up is around the huge amount of data it collects on shopping behavior. Now with generative AI, that data can be used to generate better, hyper-personalized product recommendations to a shopper, thanks to new developer tools like Amazon Personalize.
What do you say to people when they're concerned about their privacy or that it feels creepy that Amazon predicts their shopping behavior so closely?
Well, we're looking at aggregate sales history. We're looking at geographic regions and their behavior. If a particular customer were in San Francisco, it's not about that one customer, it's about what the aggregate behavior in that area is.
Sellers can also use Gen AI to write more targeted products.
So I think it was kind of cool, the Amazon Personalize, and how they quickly said, well, we're not going to get down into everything you ever bought, even though they already know it anyway. But the concept of having personalized recommendations, if you opt into that, right? This also brings me back to that Charles Duhigg book, where in the Target chapter, he said that this book was written over a decade ago, and he says that at the time, Target had enough customer data that they could actually send things to your door before you order it, because they know so much about you that you'd probably buy it, but it's just the creep factor that kept them from doing it. So not that they'd be wrong, because they know enough data. They know you would buy that at that time frame, and they're just saving you the step of going to the website, right? But then there's that human factor. So again, back to Amazon Personalize, that's a value proposition, is to say, hey, if you're interested, we can turn that on for you. So that way we're already 2 steps ahead just for you.
Is that a way to relate to them as a customer relation, keep, grow, that I could do that?
That's an interesting thing.
Right. And that was one. And the other one is just kind of an obvious, as a key activity, data privacy. Right. So knowing that, because you don't hear about them getting hacked. You hear about the anti-hackers, the privacy companies getting hacked, but not too much about Amazon getting hacked, which I think is pretty interesting.
I like it. Very cool.
Product listings, or to generate images of their products in different seasonal and lifestyle settings. For shoppers, last year Amazon.com started populating with AI-generated review highlights.
Any product that you look at is going to have reviews, hundreds or even thousands. What I love about AI review summarization is it gives you just a couple of quick bullet points. And so that's helping me make a more informed buying decision.
And in February, Amazon launched a new Gen AI-powered conversational shopping assistant called Rufus to further streamline those product recommendations.
Some consumers may be put off by product recommendations that are based on their purchase history. Now, Amazon may have to, if they don't already implement an opt-out, some sort of feature where a consumer could say, please don't look at my purchase history when giving me recommendations.
Despite concerns, Amazon is committed to injecting generative AI into every possible step of operations to boost speed, efficiency, and eventually, it hopes, its bottom line.
If you can reduce packaging, is that a good thing? Yes. If you can reduce the amount of time and the amount of miles you have to travel to get from point A to point B, is that a good thing? Yes. These are all good ideas. Definitely feel free to show us the receipts at any time.
I think she's skeptical. Bring the receipts.
But was she skeptical? I would love to go back in time and see if she was skeptical of the things that she's acknowledging paid off.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, this show is this particular episode of CNBC is not that old, right?
No, it's just this week, I believe. So
Wow.
yeah, 13 days ago, 2 weeks ago.
So they a lot of things they have to overcome is this is what we say we can do. We're going to be doing this, and she's like, okay, I track this stuff all the time.
But she's saying that they made investments 5 or 10 years ago that did pay off. So,
Gotcha.
She just hasn't seen the payoff of the new stuff,
Yeah.
which is true, right?
Holy
here we go.
crap, guys! We didn't do too bad, huh?
Yeah. So we have a of course, it's a history book that every business model looks great if you look at it in hindsight of what works. But some things that we took away. One, we were able to build, Amazon.com's business model, at least in a modern sense, in less than an hour. We had some good discussion on how do you separate key activities from key resources, what determines partners, what types of activities that they do that actually are customer relationships, and a lot of discussion on costs and back end, because this video, albeit was actually for really more on the optimization side, the left-hand side of this business model canvas, because we really don't know who the target customer was on all of this. We never had that explicitly called out. So we're going to leave that one red. Any other thoughts on this, guys? This was fun.
yeah, I'll feed right out. I think this was one of the most helpful thing on the left side of the canvas for me. This was obviously it was fun. It was a different format, but on the left side of the canvas, I do think this was incredibly valuable. So that's the upside. On the other side, yeah, it's a history lesson. I always struggle. I think I believe in the business model over just, the revenue model and the product, your product is your business model. I do believe in that, but I also, the business model canvas, I want to see how, whether it was Amazon or not, like people making this tool actionable, like filling this out in real time, going forward, then pulling out feasible, viable, desirable. Are we testing those things, or are we testing specific assumptions within, the customer segment? I don't know. Brandy and I are going to talk about that also on Monday. And who else could we bring on to have this conversation? Yeah, I think we can call Tendai. We can get David on.
So here's what I think. Number one, I'm gonna start with the most upfront thought I had, and that is, I'm trying to see, maybe 6 months from now we can get Alex on the show. Alex Osterwalder.
Alex who? Alex Osterwalder. There
Alex O. The creator of the business model canvas.
Never heard of him.
No, not at all. What I do agree that it's a history book, that it is in hindsight, but I think what is powerful now is that they can start to think about, or anybody can start to think about, so what if we did something in the activities box? What's the next thing that we could do in the activities box to drive a better value proposition for some customer that we've identified? Or how do we lower cost structure to manage through partnerships and resource development that will give us more revenue for that? So I think that the powerful part of it is that it's not only a retrospective map, it is a prospective map that allows you to go and build tests, build experiments.
What next?
One box at a time. What's next?
Well, that's the new takeaway for me. I think I was looking at this one box at a time. You're talking now. I love the way the whole episode, you're talking about two boxes at a time is an experiment. They'll talk, Eric will talk now about that the MVP is not just one variable, or not even just the quickest way through the loop. It's kind of all of these at once, where you're testing multiple variables, or you're testing your whole business model together is an MVP. I'd be curious to kind of break this down and say, like, when do you run an experiment in one box? When do you start looking at two boxes and linking those together and seeing how those balance each other out? the other thing you were talking about, the uncontrollable environments, like how do you then factor? Wasn't there an environment canvas at some point?
Yep. I don't know about that one, but I've seen
You're
the one
thinking
that
about the teardrops
yeah,
around
the teardrops.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should do a show on that.
And yeah, I have seen. I think we could get Mr. Osterwalder. I think they've been pushing some stuff out about how they're using the business model canvas to reinvent the business model canvas, which I do appreciate. So let's go for it.
I shouted him out on LinkedIn. I shot Alex about him utilizing his own, eating his own cooking, because he's now going from, hey, look, I'm a good consultant, to like, I need to raise money. I need to raise capital, which is him looking at the canvas and going, whoa. So now what do I do to now that I'm not like a break even, or I'm in stealth? I need to raise capital to increase the value of the company.
Maybe we'll get an exclusive on that story.
Woo!
Exclusively on What Pays.
Nice.
Ooh, there you go.
You heard it here first.
This was fun, guys.
Yep. Any final thoughts? Go backs? Sudden urges?
I thought it was a really good show, and it went a lot faster than I thought it would. Good suggestion, Josh.
I'm impressed we got it done within an hour.
Yeah,
especially when you guys like to talk. Pause. Like, oh, dude, we're only like 30 seconds in.
But we couldn't let him go though.
We did good.
Good.
I'm
Awesome.
going to recommend this to people if they want to learn about the business model canvas and how you can utilize it.
Great.
And where do we go, John? Where do they
you go to
see it?
youtube.com/@whatpays. That way you can get subscribed there, so you can get all the videos. Don't miss a single one. And this has been fun because actually this is the concept I had early on when I was kicking around this idea of doing this podcast. It was like, wouldn't it be kind of cool to like take like, some new startup that pops up in the news and say, what does their business model look like? Do they have a sustainable business model, or are they just chasing, funding, or did they not have a validated customer yet? So maybe you'll see more of this as it comes out.
I was thinking the same thing there, buddy. We should do
This will
this
be fun.
again. Yep.
Awesome. Well, until then, see you next time at What Pays.